I am really passionate about impact investing. So impact investing is essentially socially responsible investing on steroids. It's an intentional strategy to get social and financial returns that's actively measured. We say it's a strategy because you need to have that intentionality. You need to go into it saying, I want to both get a financial return and I want to create the world that I want to be part of. I want to have stronger environmental protection. I want to have fair trade products. I want to have products that were produced with fair wages, things like that. Impact investing sounds like a great thing and that all investing should be impact investing, but it's still very, very small. So right now, cumulatively, about $46 billion has been committed. And when you compare that to the tens of trillions of capital under management globally, it's very, very small. But at the same time, everyone's been talking about impact investing, so there's a little bit of a hype. The term was coined in 2007 by the Rockefeller Foundation, and then slowly over time, it's gained traction. So in 2010, the JP Morgan and Gin came out with a report that said that impact investing could be up to a $1 trillion market opportunity by 2020. So we're still a long ways off from that. But over the past year, there's been even more discussion about it. So the White House convened a discussion in June to set the policy agenda for impact investing. And the US Treasury Department committed $300 million to social impact bonds within the United States. The G8 also convened a task force and came out with policy recommendations 2 weeks ago across now G7 countries because Russia dropped out, but also Australia has been involved in that. And the EU and Brazil and South Africa are also looking at impact investing policy. The Pope in June and July also convened discussions on impact investing because he wants to say how can business contribute to improving society and to addressing the needs of the poor. So impact investing has a lot of momentum and a lot of hype around it, but also a lot of challenges. And at the World Economic Forum, those are the things that we really, really like to take on, and especially me. So I started at the World Economic Forum 4 years ago, and I was focused on social innovation. Grassroots entrepreneurs working in sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, working with things like financial inclusion, which Shamina talked about, renewable energy, access to healthcare and education. And with these social enterprises, they had scaled up within their countries, sometimes across a few countries, really strong business model, but had a lot of trouble attracting investment. And I started to ask the question, why? I mean, you're extending access to services to people who otherwise have been left out of the market. You look at investors who are seeing Europe and the US as saturated markets and are scrambling to find things to turn around and growth opportunities. Social entrepreneurs have a lot of integrity, have good governance in their models. Why is there this big gap between social entrepreneurs who are saying, fund me, and investors who are saying, we can't find any new markets or any new opportunities, it's so hard. So the past 3 years at Davos, we've convened games. We've played games to bring together investors and social entrepreneurs and role play and simulate what it would be like for investors, for a private equity fund or a hedge fund to invest in something in sub-Saharan Africa that could have monumental transformative change. And it's funny, when you design it as a game, people get competitive, they get creative, and they become vested in the outcome. So there were a lot of investors who we were able to get into the room, and these are chief investment officers and CEOs, that otherwise would kind of say, that's not for me, that sounds a little bit too fluffy, that sounds a little bit too soft. And there are a lot of social entrepreneurs that were able to get their full self in the discussion. They didn't say, oh, those investors, they don't understand me. They're just going to use, a $100 bill as a napkin. So one thing I want to communicate is that if you want to bring about change, if you want to open up mindsets, you need to figure out the right hook. You need to figure out how to make it fun and engaging for people. The second way that we've brought about this mainstreaming of impact investing and opening up this dialogue from the World Economic Forum side is to encourage people to be open to experimentation and innovating and thinking differently. And once they get a small step in, how they can iterate, learn, share ideas. Because a lot of the times when you're in a very transparent role, when you're a CEO or you have a lot of employees working for you, or you're afraid of what could be, on the front page of a newspaper, you tend to stick with what you already know and what will prevent you from getting in trouble in some way or some sort of negative press. But if you do it in a small way, in a pilot, in an innovation, in a safe environment, and you stress test it, and then you say, I'm just going to do this in a small way, see what it works, learn, iterate, keep going. That's the way that a lot of business leaders are able to really get ahead and to do things that are meaningful, that engage their employees, that engage customers, and that are good for the world. And then the other thing that we've been doing is a lot of rigorous research. So we know that over the next 4 decades, the millennial generation, which is born between 1980 and 2000, is set to inherit about $41 trillion. Of that, 70% of it will be women. And women, about 50% of women say that if they have the chance, they will actively target things that are socially and environmentally responsible. We know from the millennial generation that they think that business can and should do more to improve society. 49% think that business can do a lot more to improve income inequality. And I don't mean just lifting wages, I mean actively targeting income inequality. And 55% think that businesses can do a lot more to target climate change. So business can be a source for good, as we've seen with a lot of the social innovation models and socially responsible companies. Customers of the future, the millennials, and also the high net worth individuals, want businesses to do more. And then the key is how you figure out the right strategies to engage business leaders, how you open up their mindset in a safe space and allow them that room to experiment, to innovate, to learn from each other, and create those pathways and those roads forward. So I'm happy, all of our research is public, it's up on our webpage. I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I also want to be respectful of time. So I will leave it at that, Annalisa, and hope to talk to you, anyone who's interested in impact investing, more later today.